what's up guys, it's Nick Pella coming to you once again with another book review from my college dorm. So this week we have another book called The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is an Oscar Wilde novel, and there are actually two different versions of this book. One that he did in 1890 and another one that he did in 1891. He edited them for various reasons, which I won't get into here. You can look it up if you're interested. But I read the 1891 version, so just keep that in mind in case you are familiar with both copies, or both versions. The text itself is, at least in what I read, it was 184 pages. This contains both versions and commentary at the end, so that's why it's so big. But yeah. Let's begin. Alright, first off, as always, characters. First character is Dorian Gray. He's the main character in the novel. He's a very young, good-natured man at the very beginning of the book. One significant thing about him is that he has this picture painted by a man named Basil Howard. His first name is disputed in terms of how to say it, so I'm just going to say, and if it's not right, excuse me, but I've been told various ways to say it. And the picture itself shows Dorian, his beauty, which he apparently was not aware of before he saw the picture. Next character is Basil Howard. He is a good friend of Dorian's, and often has Dorian sit for him so he can paint him. And he said that Dorian was often the inspiration for a lot of his recent work. He's a very gifted painter, and yeah, him and Dorian are both friends of a man named Lord Henry. Lord Henry was originally just Basil's acquaintance until he met up with Dorian. Now, Lord Henry is one of the bigger characters in this book. Him and Dorian are probably the two main people, because Lord Henry has huge influence over Dorian for whatever reason. My personal opinion is because Dorian seems to not really be very knowledgeable about the world around him. And Lord Henry implants these various ideas and theories that he himself has come up with to kind of get Dorian's gears turning, and it somewhat reduces his pure innocence that Dorian possesses. Last main character was Sybil Vane. Again, if I say it wrong, I'm sorry. But Sybil, she is an actress, a very young actress, who early on in the book, Dorian believes that he has fallen in love with. But one thing that he doesn't realize is that she lives through her acting. She's been acting Shakespeare plays specifically for her whole life, and so she knows these characters' lives. So when she performs, she seems to think that she is these characters, so that's how she is able to perform so well. And that is the reason that Dorian falls in love with her. So yeah, that's the characters, and moving on to plot. The plot begins with a conversation between Lord Henry and Basil. And in this conversation, Dorian Gray is brought up because he is a friend of Basil's, obviously, and he's been the recent inspiration for his work. Dorian arrives on the scene and is introduced to Lord Henry, who then begins to put his influence into Dorian's way of thinking. Dorian then struggles with a lot of the ideas that Lord Henry comes up with, and it begins to change his very nature. And along with Lord Henry, the picture that Basil paints has a huge impact on Dorian. Not just at the beginning of the book, but even up to its very final pages. And yeah, that's about it for the plot as far as what I want to reveal. So read the book if you want to find out how it ends. It's very interesting. Alright, themes. We have four main themes that I came up with. First one is loss of innocence. This mainly deals with Dorian. Dorian starts off the book as a very innocent character who, like I said, knows very little of the world around him. And as the book continues onward, he becomes less and less innocent, and that's all I'll say about that. Good versus evil. This is depicted throughout the novel and can be associated with almost every character, every main character or side character that comes up in the book. Power of the Soul mainly deals with Dorian and his portrait, and I don't want to really give anything away because it's a very interesting twist with the portrait, so I won't say more about that. But keep it in mind. And last one is people can change, or can people change? This is mainly dealt with at the end of the text, and deals mainly with Dorian and him questioning his recent actions and asking if he can change them. Alright, and last but not least, enjoyment. I very much enjoyed this book. It was one of my recent favorites. Like you saw a couple reviews back, I just reviewed Palace Walk. I very much enjoyed that. This was a nice book to follow because I read Palace Walk and I read Dorian. And so there are two very good texts side by side. The book does, however, start out fairly slow. It's not very actiony or dramatic or anything like that, but that's how books should probably start out. And it picks up about close to halfway into the novel. The chapters are they're about medium length, about 10 pages or so usually. There is one chapter, chapter 11, I would highly recommend just skimming over or just spark note it, yeah. Because it doesn't really add anything to the overall story. It just kind of gives a little summary of Dorian's life from one point in the novel to the next. Watching Dorian's transformation from innocent to not innocent is quite fascinating because it kind of shows how the innocence of, or the influence of one person or idea can change, and it's very interesting to see because it's relatable to anyone. Yeah, so overall I highly recommend this to anyone who enjoys the classics, such as this. They like dark stories, similar to Frankenstein or Dracula. Well, not that dark. Any of Oscar Wilde's works, or just a nice short read. It's fairly easy to get through. I read the majority of it over my band tour over spring break, so yeah, it was pretty easy to get through. That's my review. I recommend it, and I hope that you will read it and enjoy it. So yeah, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. I would appreciate it, and love you all forever. Until next time, my name is Stone Like Pell, and as always, keep on reading.
I feel it deep within. It's just beneath the skin. I must confess.